Hi, I'm Lukey, and this is SIWIKE Tactics, a video series for millennials looking to get more out of their career potential. Today's topic is on strengths, and before we go into why strengths are important, it's probably good to define what strengths are. So strengths, as I'm speaking about it, comes from the strengths movement started by the Gallup Company and folks like Marcus Buckingham that created an assessment that evaluates you on 34 different themes, as they call it, on things that you are better at than the regular person. So a strength would be composed of a talent, what you're naturally good at, some knowledge, things that you've learned, and a skill, so experience that you've put in. And by combining all of those three, what happens is that you develop these assets, these skills that are better than other folks. So a strength is something that you spent time on, that you know a lot about, and you've actually demonstrated some innate ability in order to do. And why a strength is important is oftentimes if you take a look at the most successful people in life, you'll find that they actually don't focus on becoming well-rounded people. They actually focus on doubling down on their strengths and essentially surrounding themselves with other people who make up for their weaknesses. So the stereotypical person of Steve Jobs, who created one of the largest technology companies, he actually was not a technical person. He was not an engineer or a computer programmer or anything of the sort. He was actually more focused on user experience and design. And he surrounded himself with other folks that were capable in those things and focused on the experience, a one-button device that was able to allow people to have a very elegant, a very stylish experience with the products that he created. And by doing so, he became one of the most iconic figures of our century. So when you're looking to find your strengths, the easiest way to do it is actually to take the Strengths Finder assessment. So online, you can pay something like $20 to pay and complete the assessment, and you'll get a report on your top 5 strengths and some information about all of the other strengths. You could also buy a book, which gives you a little code that allows you to take the assessment for free. Now, having your strengths is useful and important, but it's also understanding what to do with them, because strengths are neither good or bad. They're really depending on how you work with them. There are strengths that might make you more interesting for sales roles, where you might be more outgoing, building relationships. But there are also other strengths where if you are an introverted person, a little bit more analytical, then you can also ask questions and come up with different solutions than one of those outgoing people would have. So in the same context, you could actually use your strengths in different ways in order to make the most of it. So after you've taken an assessment and had your strengths, now what you want to do is figure out, well, are they actually your strengths or are they your strength in a point in time? If you recall, I mentioned that a strength was your natural talent, your knowledge, and your skills put together. But if you've never done it before and you have no knowledge of it, then anything multiplied by 0 is 0. So what you often need to do is experience, try different things in the world, ones that you are curious about, that you're interested in, and that you feel you could actually like in the future, and see if you have a natural talent. And if you do, keep on going and see if that multiplier increases. So sometimes people are good at things because they've just been doing it for a long time, but sometimes people have these hidden talents where by doing it and spending a little bit more time learning about it and experiencing it, then it becomes one of their true strengths. So oftentimes it's taking the stuff that you're interested in, that you're curious about and excited about, and seeing if there really is an underlying strength behind it. We're on the topic of strengths. The opposite topic of weaknesses often come up. And the question is, what do I do about my weaknesses? And my typical answer is, try to do as little about them as possible. Well, essentially what you're trying to do is neutralize your weaknesses and not make them something that hampers your progress. So oftentimes that's outsourcing them and getting other people to do it, surrounding yourself by other folks that are able to do it, and essentially making sure that it isn't a negative for you, it is a positive, or at least a neutralizing factor. And that way, every effort that you spend goes to strengths and things that you're actually good at. And if you treat it as a mathematical formula, so let's pretend that you have 8 hours to do something, right? And you spend it on a strength. If you spend it on your strength, then that 8 hours is probably going to be close to 8 hours worth of productivity. If you spend it on a weakness and something that you don't really like and not very good at, you're probably likely to be at 50% or even 20% of productivity. So that 8 hours now becomes closer to 2 or maybe 4 hours. And if you continue on your life, focusing on your strengths, then that multiplier of 8 hours becomes 8 hours. But if you spend it too much on weaknesses, then it definitely starts cutting out your productivity. So that's why it's important to focus on your strengths and spend less time on your weaknesses. But an important part is to make sure that you have the appropriate tools in order to neutralize your weaknesses. So make sure that you surround yourself with people and outsource your activities so that your weaknesses become irrelevant. Hopefully I've given you a few tips and tricks on strengths and why they're important. And I encourage you to explore what your strengths may be and see if you have an underlying talent that you've never realized. And for your weaknesses, I encourage you to surround yourself with others that have strengths in areas where they're your weakness and hopefully neutralize them. Thanks for watching, and if you want more videos, we release YouTube videos every other Monday, and you can subscribe and follow us on other social media channels at Focus Inspired.